Do you have an 09 to 14 Ford F-150 and demand the best in automotive lighting? If so, this video is for you. In my hands, I've got the brand new Morimoto 4Banger. We're gonna install them on the front of this truck in the fog light area. Then we're gonna install a set on the A-pillar brackets. Follow me, let's get started. First things first, there's two pod lights that you need to be aware of. The entry level, which Morimoto calls the NCS pod, they use Nichia chips and it's super bright, has the same beam pattern as their higher end model, the HXB or HX Boost. They use an OSRAM chip. Those things are stupid bright. And if you get the beam pattern that is a white wide version, it is the brightest one that we have ever tested here at Headlight Revolution. Now the NCS and the HXB both come in three different beam patterns. They have the wide beam pattern, they have a combo beam pattern, and they have a spotlight beam pattern. All three beam patterns are great. However, the one that decimates all is the wide version. 80% or more of our customers buy the white wide version, so that is definitely something to consider, especially if you're gonna mount it in something like a fog light. Now, if you wanna see how these pod lights stack up against the rest of the competitors out there, Chris Nelson does an in-depth review where he compares these against Style Dynamics, Rigid Industries, and so on. So if you wanna see how he came to the conclusion of these being the best, be sure to watch that video. Now all of these pod lights and all the driving beam patterns come with either an amber version or a white version. So the higher end OSRAM chips that are used in the HXB 4Bangers, those are a more yellow look. And when you use the NCS 4Bangers, they look a little bit more amber. That's because the NCS uses those Nichia chips. And Nichia chips, they do come in a yellow, whereas the OSRAM chips do not come in a yellow. One thing to note, in all of our testing, the amber versions always came in slightly less than the white versions. That's because the light passing through that yellow lens, it loses a little bit of its luminosity. Since the NCS chip, that entry-level 4Banger, uses a yellow chip passing through the yellow lens, it doesn't quite lose as much lumens. So that is something to consider. Now, as far as street legalities go, that NCS chip, if you do mount it at a -3° aim, it does become compliant with the latest SAE F3 regulations. Unfortunately, the HXB is not street legal because it's so dang bright. And it's up to you to decide what's more important for your build. Now, what about the reliability? With all of the testing that we have done so far, we have not had any issues. They have an IP69K rating, which means they're totally waterproof. Also, they have a limited lifetime warranty, so they've got to be pretty good. As far as dimming down goes, when you guys are driving at over 4.5 miles an hour, you actually don't lose as much loss of light as you will see in some of our testing or in our other videos. So be sure to note that they don't actually lose but 8% of the brightness when you're driving over 4.5 miles per hour. The last thing to note about these 4Bangers real quick is that they have about a 30% smaller footprint than that of all of the competitors out there. So if you're mounting them in, say, one of the custom brackets on the front bumper in any of your vehicles, they're gonna fit so much better, like an OEM Plus look. So now that you've decided that the Morimoto 4Banger is the right off-road pod light for you, let's go ahead and install them in the fog lights first. Now what you need to get is an 8mm socket like this. Now, a lot of you might be saying, why are we going to take off the whole assembly? Well, it's pretty hard to get to this adjustment screw with the little screwdriver to pull the fog light out from the front. So we're going to take off the assembly. It's 3 8mm bolts. Let's do that now. Let's start on the passenger side and then move to the driver's side. To make it a little bit easier, you can go ahead and turn that wheel to the left on the passenger side and turn it to the right when you're working on the driver's side. So your wheel is turned. Let's remove those 3 bolts. Go ahead and reach up. There's an 8mm bolt on the bottom, remove that. And then there's 2 on top. So the whole bracket's free. Let's go ahead and unplug this dingy yellow halogen bulb. We're just gonna unplug it, make it easier to remove this bracket. These are the 2 holes on the top where the bolts go in, and then this is the one on the bottom here. So just get these 3 out and then do the same thing on the other side. At Headlight Revolution, we've made countless videos for the fog lights. It doesn't matter what year range the Ford F-150 was, we have made a ton of videos, from light bulb shootouts to installing the Morimoto XB fog lights. But we've not seen something like this Morimoto 4Banger. This thing decimates all, and it's got a smaller footprint, so it actually looks good in the front end of these trucks. These brackets from Morimoto are incredible, and they look like OE+. So what we're gonna do is put that 4Banger in these polycarbonate brackets. We're gonna build this out, and then we're gonna put this in that OEM housing. So first things first, we're gonna take these 2 pieces here and put the 4-banger in it. It's a very simple process. Go ahead and feed this through, just like so. And you want this tab right here to line up with this hole on the 4-banger itself. So make sure you get that upright. Go ahead and lock that in. And then go ahead and grab the faceplate. Super, super easy. Make sure that this one is also lined up. The hole right here needs to match the hole on the 4-banger. Go ahead and lock that in. You should hear it click all the way. Now this kit comes with all the hardware you need as well. So go ahead and take the bigger of the 2 screws that are in here and put them on each side of the pod light. Go ahead and tighten them down. This is specifically a T30 torque. Do the same thing on the other side. Now you can see it come together. We got 4 of these little screws to put in too now. So go set it on its face and put them in the 4 holes you see on the back side. You don't have to go super tight, it's just plastic. Now that's built, let's go ahead and take that adjustment screw that comes with the package and get that ready to go as well. This adjustment screw bag comes with a spring like this, a bolt that will come up from the bottom, and the little plastic clip. This plastic clip is important, let's put that in quick. Since the pod light's gonna be sitting like this and the screw is coming up from the bottom, we're gonna put that clip in from the bottom as well. Go ahead and push it in. You'll hear it click, that way you know it's in. Now go ahead and take that housing and remove this crappy fog light. On the back side, we first have to remove the screw, the adjustment screw. Go ahead and remove that. All right, you can remove that spring. Then you just have the 2 clips on each side. Go ahead and take a pry tool like this, reach on the side. You're gonna be prying out and pushing the fog light through. One side free, do the same thing on the other. Now set this one off to the side and grab that 4-banger pod you just built out. Now slide it through. I like to do the adjustment screw side first. That'll keep this from hitting on the inside of this housing. And push the other side in and you're good to go. Now all you gotta do is put that adjustment screw back in. Let's go ahead and take that spring, push this in here, just be careful, it will shoot across the room. Get it lined up and put your screw in. This allows you to adjust the fog lights up and down while it's still on the truck. Take a screwdriver and tighten it down. You don't have to tighten it down all the way. That would make your lights shine super high up in the air. You don't want that. All right, that should be about good right there. The adjustment screw is in. The last thing you gotta do is install this little wire here. It's got a Deutsch connector on one side and it's got your OEM connector on the other side, the one that did plug into your halogen bulb. Go ahead and plug the Deutsch connector in to your 4-banger. Hear a click, and now this just plugs in to that same plug, the only plug you have exposed on the back side. So your housing is built, the wiring is done. Now go ahead and take this entire housing back to the passenger side, put those 3 8mm bolts back in, and you are done. Make sure that you align these vertically as well though. You do not want to be blinding oncoming drivers. From there, take your truck out, go see how much better these are compared to stock. So your fog lights are in. Now let's go ahead and install the 4-bangers on some A-pillar brackets from Morimoto. One thing I want to point out, I'm sure you're going to ask in the comments, is what are these? These are the Morimoto XB LED headlights, and they're just like the other ones that we had reviewed. If you want to watch that video to know exactly what they are, be sure to check it out. The only difference though is that this right here is now amber, so you can either get an amber DRL or a white DRL. It's a very cool headlight and it's way better than stock. But we're not here for that today, so go ahead, pop that hood so we can put those metal brackets on. All right, and then go to the passenger side first. All right, so we're at the passenger side. What we're gonna do is install these A-pillar brackets. As you can see, the Morimoto A-pillar brackets are super durable. They look great. They have this cool little Morimoto logo on the side. And they also come with little plastic pieces to put in here to zip tie the wiring so you don't just have dangling wire when you're having that up to your 4-banger. Now, where these go are right here. There's 2 bolts on each side. We're gonna go ahead and do it by hand because they are pretty tight. A little Milwaukee like this doesn't always do the trick. The cool part is you don't have to remove this all the way. Just loosen it up enough to fit that bracket. Looks to be about 3/16 thick, so try to use your best judgment. Might have to try it a couple times. The other bolt is in the back. Do the same thing, loosen it up. Now before you install this bracket, I would recommend pushing these little push pins in now. Should look like that. That way you can run the wiring on the outside. Now go ahead and fish this in. I'm gonna turn it upside down. I know it's gonna be weird looking, so we can slide it in there, Now twist it forward, and there you are. You just gotta make this fit. Now this gets to be a little bit fun. If you have to, you can push this down, and then you can fit it underneath the washer. I understand it's hard to see. Now we're really close. If you have to loosen it up a little bit, like I said, go right ahead and do that. Now this bracket is above this metal plate, but it is below the washers here and these bolts. So once that's on, go and tighten it down. You gotta remember though that this right here has a little bit of play. So be very careful, make sure you line it up exactly where you had it before. So slowly lower that. Make sure that this little seam here is straight with the hood. That is so you don't destroy the hood. Tighten them down. Now the 4-banger that I'm gonna choose to put on this F-150 here on the A-pillar brackets is a combo beam pattern. That's gonna give you that amazing downrange visibility, but it's also gonna have a little bit of fill on each side. So that I really enjoy as a light output for the A-pillar brackets. Now, I'm gonna also do the amber, and we're doing the HXB, which is the high-end version, like I said before. What we're gonna do is put this in the universal U brackets here. This is gonna come in a kit as well. Let's go ahead and put this bolt in. It's gonna be really hard to access this bolt once you put the 4-banger on. Grab your 4-banger and put it on like this, making sure these holes line up. And then the kit comes with 2 other screws with a little bit of blue Loctite on them. Go ahead and screw those in. Now you don't have to make them super tight because we're gonna adjust them later. And you can do that while it's on the truck. Same thing, do the other one. All right, now go ahead and mount this to that bracket. Now take that pod in the U bracket, put it right here, and then as simple as this, we're gonna use this washer here, put it underneath, and then put this lock nut here. Now you can go ahead and hand tighten it for now. Now we can tighten this down in just a second, but let's go ahead and run this wiring down to connect to our harness we're about to run. There you are, do the same thing on the other side. Now the guys at Morimoto have truly thought of everything. They've had a completely thought out relay harness that is included in the kit when you buy 4-bangers for the F-150. Now, they have 2 Deutsch connectors. One connects to the passenger side, the other one connects to the driver's side 4-banger. Then you also got to connect the positive and negative terminals. From there, you've got a relay. This relay needs to be mounted upright. On the other side, you've got a switch. This is a Morimoto switch. You could disconnect it and put any other switch you might want, but we're gonna run it through the firewall and into the cab. So go ahead and plug in this waterproof connection. Let's start with light 2. Make sure it's all the way in and you hear it click. Now we're gonna run this all the way to the other side and we're gonna plug in light 1. Now do the exact same thing on the other side. Waterproof connector connected to the 4-banger you installed on the driver's side. Make sure you hear it click. Now let's make our way over to the battery. All right, so now we're back at the passenger side. We're gonna mount the relay. Now the relay can be mounted anywhere you'd like. Just make sure that it's vertical and not like this. So as you can see here, it's got a little eyelet on it. You can put zip ties through it, zip tie it to something already existing, or you can remove a bolt like here or anywhere along the side here by the battery, remove it, put the bolt through this, and then put the bolt back into the truck itself. There's only 3 wires left. There's a positive wire, a negative wire, and then this switch right here. Now the positive and negative just goes to the battery. We're gonna do that at the very end. So what we're gonna do now is pass this switch through the firewall. Like I said 100 times, Morimoto's thought of everything. There's no way that I want to pass all of this wiring through the firewall. So they made it a cool way to disconnect it so you don't have to put the whole switch through a big hole and have a bunch of water intrusion into the cab. Go ahead, loosen this up. We'll connect this again once we make it into the cab. But first, let's run this through the firewall. As you can see down here, past the relay where we just installed, there is a rubber grommet. This big rubber grommet has a bunch of wiring going through it. I'm gonna run this through that rubber grommet, and then I'm gonna pull it out into the passenger footwell area. Now, to do that, you can cut with just a little knife, cut a little slit, and push your way through. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. Just know it's possible because I'm about to do it real quick. Now, full disclosure, passing this wire through the firewall is no small task. So just hang in there, take your time, grab a drink, and work your way through. So once you get it through here, you can pull out all of the excess. Now go ahead and pass all of that wiring to the driver's side. I like putting the switch by the steering wheel. So go ahead and run it underneath the cab you may have to remove a couple of push tabs to remove some plastic pieces depending on where you route your wiring. By the steering wheel itself, you're going to have to pull back some of the plastic to route the wiring. Now, to put the switch in, you need to drill a 3/4 inch hole so you can pass the wiring through it. Make sure you're very accurate. If you drill that hole too big, the switch will just fall through once you push it in. Then on the back side, you're going to reach up and you're going to put this metal retainer, and you're going to sandwich that between the plastic that you just drilled through, the metal retainer, and the switch. So there you go. You're going to push that through, then you're going to tighten it. All right, it's going to be a little bit tricky when you're in there. I'm just going to show you here because it's easier to show you than on camera. There you go. That's your Morimoto switch. And then wherever you routed the wire, you're just going to connect it to this connector here. Simple as that. And just like that, you've upgraded your styling, safety, and visibility. Now go ahead and tighten down those A-pillar brackets once everything's tidied up. The wiring needs to be all zip tied and out of the way. Take it out and go enjoy your brand new lights. Your truck went from this dull, stock looking truck to something absolutely usable. That looks pretty intense. If you want to see what else we have for your Ford F-150, go to headlightrevolution.com, type in your year, make, and model, and from there you'll be well on your way to upgrading your ride completely front to back to LED.